Say Dave brought up the music, but it had the sort of that synth horror.
Like, in the middle of the movie, it changes to weird music. Like Buddy Cop. Weird. Well, there's a pan flute or just a flute.
And flute.
Hello, and welcome to Cinema Craptaculus, where we say a bad movie is just as hard to make as a good one, just a lot easier to make fun of. This is Dave, and with me are my uncrappy co-hosts,
Stephanie.
And John. It's 1987, and the saying, "Father knows best," is not only said, it's still believed. But in this movie, what father knows best is deadly. Kids, meet your new stepfather. Here's the rapid recap to catch you up.
Cinema Craptaculus Rapid Recap.
After murdering his family, Jerry, played by Lost's Terry O'Quinn, marries a recent widow and becomes the stepfather to 16-year-old Stephanie. But Stephanie realizes something creepy is up with the new head of the family. When she starts digging into his past, the bodies pile up and she realizes that any man can be a father, but it takes a true psychopath to be the stepfather.
Dun, dun, dun.
This, I have to say, was kind of fun because the protagonist's name was Stephanie. It rarely happens. It happens in several movies that I've watched in the past, but it's always a fun little thing when it comes around again. You're like, oh, I have the name of the protagonist.
I'm going to ask a question to whoever it will be the person to answer it, because honestly, I don't remember our email chain. The stepfather. Why? Why'd we choose this one?
Well, Stephanie wanted a movie that had a protagonist named Stephanie. So she did a Google search and was like, here's one. No, Steph said, hey, let's do just something classic.
I like that. I like that first explanation. I prefer that I was on a fevered search to find a movie with a protagonist named Stephanie. And
you're like,
forced
okay, it
you
has
two
to be
to do it.
We must apologize to Leprechaun fans, because I believe that was our alternate. So we almost did Leprechaun.
I wanted to do Leprechaun.
I think we still should do Leprechaun, but this one was a good. I actually really enjoyed watching this movie again.
Me too.
I probably saw it
again.
Okay. So I think I worked at a video store, and I think this might have been one of the films that people checked out. But yeah, let's go at it.
Yeah. So go ahead, Dave. I mean, this is a show about a movie with a girl named Stephanie in it. But please, let's hear your opinion first.
It's only because I'm a white male. So, as I was saying, you know what? Now I lost my train of thought.
No!
And next up, we're going to do Kevin Kline starring as the president in Dave.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Be nice.
When I heard the top, I have so many questions globally about this movie. First of all, when I heard the top music, it was kind of a Nightmare on Elm Street, heavy synth horror, mid-'80s horror, it would be right at home on Stranger Things. What I'm saying is I was like, I'm in. This soundtrack, I'm in. And then the first opening shot is first of all, Jerry, played by Terry, which is very weirdy.
It made you wary.
Yes. Thank you. He looked like that dude from SNL who plays MacGruber to me. So I always kind of laughed whenever he was on screen.
Will Forte?
Yeah, Will Forte. He looked like
MacGruber, no!
Terry O'Quinn with hair looks like MacGruber.
That's funny.
He had very flexible hairdos in this movie, though.
Yes.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
He was a master of disguise.
It's a good term. It's okay, first of all, it says we went straight to the O'Quinn. He is the man. I am very glad, though, that he got lost, because he was, not only did I love him on that show, and he was one of the best.
We better find him.
But had he not gotten lost, I think this is what he would.
He's already dead.
I think this would be his legacy, because I think this role was what he was most known for. And we could talk more about his performance in a bit, but I think it really was, the guy from Stepfather. And yet he's done a million TV spots and movie roles. I mean, before he got lost, I think he's a phenomenal actor. I wish he was a guest on our show, just to say so this script, this project, and this role, because he wasn't a name. I don't think he was a name. It was low budget, right?
I don't.
Yeah, I don't think the budget
felt
was
like
very
it.
high.
The biggest name was Shelley Hack, who was, fourth banana Charlie's Angel.
Oh.
Oh. And was she the wife?
Yeah, so Shelley Hack, well, this is where Steve really would jump in with the whole bio. She replaced, I believe, Farrah originally. No,
she replaced someone.
Cheryl Ladd replaced Farrah.
Charles Angel.
She was like
I don't think we need the whole Charles Angels lineup.
Here's what we'll do. I will go out to our long lost friend Steve and ask him, and so we can be sure.
And he will give you his ranking as to where she fits in the ones he loves or hates of the angels.
Right. So you were saying though that
he has a wallet card that has it all listed out for reference.
Yeah.
So Terry O'Quinn is the man. He's great. I really loved his performance in this, and he really came off like somebody who was disturbed, and not in a movie way, not like I'm crazy, not that kind of thing, but like just somebody who. I think you guys know there's a very pivotal scene. When I say that there's a pivotal scene where he just switches, that was the most terrifying moment in the entire movie to me.
Was it when she said things were going great, but you broke it? And then he just goes. Was it that? That was a stare, people, listeners. That was a visual.
There's a couple. Just you saying that, I was like, oh, there's a couple of scenes that are like that.
The one that made me jump was when at the whole movie he's keeping up this charade, and then he suddenly, like in the scene, the staring scene, he switches off and starts to do his modus operandi, right? So he begins to detach and go off and set up his life. We'll get into that in a second, but there is a moment when he forgets who he's pretending to be. And he's like, oh, my name is such and such. It's like he was, on a tirade about something and grumbling to himself. And he's like, it's not that hard to understand. My name is whatever. And then his wife is like, what? That's not your name.
Did you say?
And he's like, oh, wait, who am I here? He
Yes,
literally says, who am I here? And then he's like, oh, yeah, that's right. And then he picks up the phone and like clocks his wife with the phone receiver.
Yes.
Like it was just like a thing where he takes a beat to remember who he is. And then he's like, oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you. And then like knocks her out.
and also you can see him play through his mind. Like, should I try to convince her or no, fuck it. I'll kill her right now.
The film starts out, and I think I could be way off base. Donald Westlake is one of the screenwriters, and he supposedly based this. He based Stephanie on a stepdaughter he had that he was having, had some issues with. I'm like, well, that's a bold admission. No, but there was a whiff of
wrong side of history there, bub.
Well, there is definite some homages to other films, but I felt like the film starts out a lot like Halloween. You're in this Midwest town. It's fall.
It's actually Pacific Northwest, sir.
It's Seattle.
You should have known that.
Yes, sorry, my correction. And yes, up in Seattle. But it's got that same middle America vibe with the leaves and sort of the craftsman houses and the shots of the sidewalks. And and they show him walking along after it starts out in a prologue where he's disposed of his first family, cut his hair. We don't know that he's set up. He does this, that he'll sort of cross over one new life with an old one. He'll set one up while he's, discarding another one. So he's just discarded the previous. He's cut his hair, new identity, and he's walking, and he's very slow walking, and he whistles, and that whistle becomes like his calling card. But it has little echoes of It has echoes of Michael Myers, because Michael Myers escapes and then he descends, and Michael, of course, walks very slowly. In this one, he escapes from his old life by killing off the woman and family he was with. And he's kind of like Michael Myers. He's just kind of calmly walking down this leaf-strewn street.
He also transforms from like a bearded, long-haired man to no beard and short hair. To change up his looks. And you're seeing him covered in blood going through all this. And you're like, what did he do? And he walks down the stairs and it does this long shot reveal of the dead family, blood everywhere. Just two children dead, laying like on the ground. His wife like across the table. This movie had TV movie energy with some like theatrical energy. And that shot was like a theatrical shot where it was just like this brutal crime scene, and he just leaves.
Yeah. It's a completely, you're right, Dave. Like, it's like, it felt like the first moment where we're like, whoa. That was like the first, like, oh my God. Like, this is an actual, like, murder, like, murder scene. And this guy's crazy. And this movie is going to be bonkers. Because everybody, like you said, everybody was dead.
And you think about a film like this that, I don't know how it's promoted. It feels very, direct to video. I don't know if it got a theatrical. It might have.
I'm sure it was promoted like this. In Seattle, there was a man, Stepfather.
The end. Rated R.
Imagine if you hadn't seen the trailer or you didn't know what you're getting into, but you'd have to market it as he is what he is. Otherwise, people won't go. But imagine if they didn't have that scene.
He is Popeye.
Imagine if they didn't have that scene and the audience is learning alongside the protagonists of his background.
Oh, yes.
That would have been different. But I think, of course, since you have to market it as such, then why not just tell them exactly who he is? And then the suspense comes from he's setting up his next victims. And we don't really get to see how charming he is in the beginning.
No.
But as soon as we see him in his new life, he is... they skip over the courtship. It's like a year. And, there's also sort of this whiff of...
we can't skip over this fact. Mm-hmm. It's been 1 year. Here are the things that happened in that year, or leading up to that year. He has killed his family and moved across town.
And gotten away with it
I think, completely. Right? And has gotten away with it completely. The Stephanie and her mom, the father and their family... has died. They have mourned the death. They have met Jerry. They have fallen in love. They have married, and they have become a family in 1 year. I think that's my biggest bone to pick with this movie is like it all happens in 1 year.
He's just really charming. Terry O'Quinn, his little gleaming eyes. Everybody's like, he was about to pull that on the lady. The third family we see where he just literally scrolls up and is like, "Hi, let me introduce myself," and the lady's like,
That's about his charm and his looks. That's another thing I wrote down. When he first shaved his beard, I said he looks like if Niles Crane and Fraser Crane had a baby.
And Will Forte was their grandfather.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to keep drawing these comparisons to other things. I do have influences I'll talk about, but. Stephanie, the character Stephanie, the teenage girl, immediately we show her as nonplussed by this arrangement. And I don't know if it was meant to be, but it did remind me a little bit of Hamlet, because Hamlet starts out where he's staring out the window, just like she is. She's staring out the window, and she said something like, "It's been 2 months and you still aren't warming to him." And I feel
her
like
mom says that to her.
They've been together 2 months. So I don't think he's necessarily married, but definitely moved in. And I think Hamlet says it's been just 2 months. No, not 2. When he's mourning his father and he's looking out the window at his mother, warming up to his uncle. So I wonder if that was meant to be sort of a parallel to her psyche, that she is feeling like Hamlet.
Yes.
Only it's not. I mean, I get it's not her uncle or anything, but I don't know. Maybe it was just a cheeky thing the screenwriter did.
A lot of young teenage girls in the late 80s felt like Hamlet. It's a documented fact. Now, granted, I was only a little girl during this time, but a lot of that Hamletification of girlhood in the United States impacted me nonetheless. And I think you were spot on. It was the teen girl aesthetic of 87.
I can't tell if you're taking the piss out of me or if you're being genuine.
Can you just elaborate on that? Because I find that really fascinating. What are some of the teen girl aesthetics from the 1980s that reflect Hamlet?
Crimped hair? No.
Trapper Keepers.
Before we had selected this movie, it just came up in like an Instagram feed. You know how you get like little scenes from movies, and the one that came up was, I'm just gonna do it and see if Stephanie can, without audio, can name the movie.
Fear.
Right.
Oh my God.
So
that was my 90s teen.
So yeah,
girl.
I did the Mark Wahlberg yelling, screaming into the "let me in" into the little door. But this was kind of like that film was kind of influenced on this. So it's always about the outsider coming into the family dynamic and trying to break it up. I think that's something that Terry O'Quinn's presence. I'm glad they didn't go through a lot of exposition as to their courtship and stuff. I think it's just enough to know that he's there. Mom's gaga for him. Everybody loves him. Stephanie just is something not right.
That's not right. And she's kind of in tune with her feelings and emotions because she's been going to therapy since her dad passed away. So she's very much like she has a really good therapist who she considers her friend, who she can confide in, and he's really good because he hears her out but still encourages her to, like maybe, give it a little bit of time, and you also have to be true to who you are and all of that. So he's very supportive. He's kind of like the father figure that she needs in this moment. But unfortunately, things don't go well for him, do they?
No. And I liked that moment when she says to the psychologist, he scares me. And when she says that, the psychologist stops down and really hears her. And as you said, as you teased, it doesn't go well for him. He's been trying to talk to Jerry, and he calls Jerry up and he's like, "Hey, I want to look at a house. Can you show me a house?"
Yeah, because Jerry sells real estate in the town.
Jerry can do anything. I wish I was Jerry, because when he starts disengaging from his current family to start a new family, he goes to an insurance agency. It's like, I sell insurance. I wish I had con man confidence that I could just go in. You hear about these people like, God, Catch Me If You Can.
Frank, he's grown up Frank Abagnale Jr. if he didn't get caught.
Thank you.
And killed people.
Yes.
He puts the confidence in confidence, man.
If I could walk into just any kind of store and be like, I can do this, I can sell this, and convince someone to hire me, man, I'd be unstoppable.
Yeah.
But as it is, I'm very stoppable.
In the multiverse, Jerry was a very successful Hollywood producer because he pitched his way. Yes. Just Terry O'Quinn has this quality. And did we both watch Lost, or was it just me and Dave?
Just you and Dave. I wasn't born yet.
His character, I don't want to go into his whole character arc because it's a very weird one. And he ends up playing two characters by the show's end, maybe more if we're paying attention. But he does have to play both villainous and heroic and sympathetic. And he's just one of those actors that he does have that twinkle in his eye that he is absolutely the most charming. Very few actors, I think, really can project that. And I think it was a brilliance on the part of whoever cast him to say, you're an unknown actor, which works to your advantage because we don't have preconceptions about you if we were to cast a name, but we have to immediately see why people fall for him. If he's creepy out of the gate, then there's not much tension. We have to see Stephanie struggle. That why can't they all see what we see? Because the audience kind of, for a while there, we kind of can start falling into
under his spell. Well, they made a really good point, and they made a really good decision to have him. Like Dave, you were saying that he was all shaggy and bearded at the beginning. He shaves it all off, and then you get this handsome mug, right? You get this really handsome guy,
Will Forte hotness.
Who's because he's put together and he seems like he's he's the man, right? And then so I think that was important to do as far as hair and wardrobe goes, because we needed to be able to fall under his spell. And it was interesting. It was an interesting choice later in the third go when he's detaching from Stephanie and her mom. He takes the rug off his head and becomes more of a balding, he has glasses. It's just a very
a mustache.
And it's that's not this guy is a chameleon. This guy isn't who he says.
Clearly the women that he dates don't really scrutinize him up close, because anybody with a fake beard and toupee, I would think that if you're kind of in an embrace, shall we call it, you might kind of recognize that stuff.
Yeah, he painted in his mustache.
So one of the first things the mom says, they get the dog, and So Terry brings a dog home for the girl to bribe her, basically. And they're talking about the name of the dog. And for whatever reason, this line stood out to me. It feels like, I don't even know why it's in the script, but the mom comes up and says, names don't seem to matter much. And I know it seems like anticlimactic to my shock of this line being so weird, but why did she say that? Like, what?
Thematically.
It's just
theme.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's almost like she's clued into the fact that she's being gaslit by this crazy guy, but hasn't come around consciously to it.
Maybe. Like, I mean, maybe that is true. Like, I wondered how much, like, if Stephanie could see, Stephanie knew from the jump that something was amiss. Like, she didn't feel comfortable.
I always think you're talking about yourself in the third person.
When Stephanie asks questions during her viewing of the movie, Stephanie doesn't. Stephanie has thoughts, okay? Yeah, I mean, she's the only one who kind of felt that unnerved, you know, like she was unnerved by him and wasn't necessarily charmed by him. And I think it was the like you were saying, the Hamlet of it all, like just the speed at which her mom was racing into this relationship. And yeah, I don't think they were married. I just think they were living together or something like that.
Well, then he has a weird definition of the traditional family.
That's
one thing I appreciated about the way the film was paced and structured is that they kind of moved things along. They didn't drag things out. So she pretty much her antenna went up pretty quickly, as did her Nancy Drew detective skills. And she goes right into like sort of, you know, fishing around, and that story of the, you know, the original murder. There's a brother of the deceased from the first family. He's now snooping around, and he's, by the way, he is also like Showtime after hours, like softcore hunk type, which was just kind of weird. Like he was almost a little too good looking for that role.
Yes.
It was just weird. Yeah, I just was very distracted by how handsome he was.
He was a feathered earring away from being the like sixth Lost Boy in the Lost Boys.
Yeah, but he also felt like a WGN or TBS like Saturday afternoon syndicated lead, and he didn't quite fit into it. But anyway, his character was earnest. He's trying to solve his sister's unsolved killing because, you know, he knew the guy.
Ernest Goes to Camp.
He knew the guy. Anyway, so he hits up this this season reporter at the Seattle Bellevue Gazette, and says, "Look, this is an unsolved mystery. The police inexplicably have called it a cold case after what, months? That seemed a little weird."
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'll just speed through it. So he's, you know, trying to, he gets the newspaper to publish, you know, like circle back to this story, but he's all pissed off because they didn't include a photo, because he thought, hey, if you guys include a photo of who the suspect was, that will help. It would have just spoiled the whole movie if they'd done that. But then that article, Stephanie finds it after Jerry tries to like hide it. She sees it and she gets her suspicion. So she writes the Gazette. It says, "Hi, can you please send me a photo of whatever this killer that you know?" And then so they sent her in the mail this manila envelope, and she pulls out, and we'll just say Jerry gets to it first because he goes to the mail, and he pulls it out, and it's like a headshot, like an actor's headshot. Yeah. Like the production didn't come up with like this is his photo from like, you know, whatever job. It was like a headshot. It was like, what? Yes. Anyway, but he's bearded and like, oh no, he got to it. So what's he going to do? And I thought they did a little kind of a clever fix for him. You remember? He ends up like switching the photo out. And so when she finally gets
another
it.
beard, he put the dad from Family Ties in there.
Was it really?
It was probably one of the crew members, though, by the way, who just like, I'll use my photo.
Yeah, like, I'll be the stand-in.
Yeah, but I thought that was kind of clever. But it was just so funny that the newspaper in that era was like, sure, little girl, we'll send you a photo.
An 8x10 glossy of the murder suspect.
with Ryan Artists at the bottom.
Yeah.
Please hang in your local Taco Bell.
Right up next to like the two young actors from Growing Pains.
Yeah.
Hey, Craptaculars, we'll be right back. And now back to the show.
I was going to say that I thought that the way they handled the pacing of the brother, I'm sorry, of the first family, the murdered family's brother. He is on the trail of Jerry, even though he doesn't know that's his new name now. And they do check back in with him frequently, but once they get to, I mean, we could tell this whole story. Basically, the entire movie is just seeing Jerry in this new life and seeing Stephanie suspect him, and then Jerry starts to pop off. Once he starts to think that people are onto him, he quickly eliminates them. So he gets rid of the doctor and this very strange, the psychiatrist, in this very strange setup where the doctor, like you said, Dave, like he was posing as a person who was looking at real estate. They have this meeting in an empty house. Jerry is very much doing the role of like, we're going to be walking through the house and this was a great place for a family. Jerry is obsessed with the idea of a family. He will never, it is an unadulterated thing for, like, it can never be, you know, like he wants a nuclear family. He wants the dad, the mom, and the kids and the dog. That's his whole dream, and he's obsessed with it and will kill for it. But he is talking to the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist
will kill his family for it.
Exactly. If at any point in time they disappoint him, like he was saying, then they're out of there. But
you're fired.
He was talking to the therapist. The therapist was pretending to be a bachelor who didn't believe in families, and you could see his like when the therapist plays the role of like, you know, I'm just a single guy. I don't really need a family. You still believe in that? You could see Terry O'Quinn does the eye twitch thing. Yeah. Where he's like, I don't.
I've got to murder this person.
And
it's very astute of the psychiatrist to. He knows this is the stepdad, and he wants to sort of see if Stephanie has some merit to her claims about being scared. So he intentionally, as a psychologist, is pushing his buttons. But sadly for him, he's a little too successful.
Yeah, he did find out. F-A-F-O. Yeah. And he was just very much like, oh, you can see this moment where he's like, perhaps I've gone too far. Perhaps I've asked too many questions here. Because then Jerry clocks him with a 2x4. The moment that the psychiatrist says like, oh, I have like my wife won't let me know. I'm, you know, after saying he was a bachelor, oh, my wife won't let me make any decisions without her. Wait a minute. What are you talking about? You said you were divorced. I mean, you said you were single. Oh, I'm divorced. And out comes the 2x4.
Yeah. Terry does not wait. I mean, Jerry does not wait. He's like, if I suspect that you may reveal who I am, I'm going to kill you right away.
He just like, and he killed him in the house. It was like an empty house.
Yeah. And we don't even know what happens to that body. Oh, wait, yes, we do. Uh-huh. He wraps it up. He puts it in a car. He puts it, and then sends the car off the road, and it blows up. He like puts a fuse in the gas tank.
It's such a shoddy way. Like, first of all, he like does the typical block on the
gas
pedal, which of course, you know, maybe in a raging fire you wouldn't see that, but the gas cap is open. He leaves the paper that the guy was wrapped in inside. There'd be some there'd be some evidence that any police that did an actual investigation would say something's weird. Why is the gas tank open? Clearly there was something in there that lit it on fire because, you know. But
why did the car explode from the gas tank?
Dave, how many films have you ever seen in your life?
Oh, good point.
Yeah. Thousands.
Good point.
And cars explode.
Cars explode.
I thought that Jerry's, the next day, he breaks the news to Stephanie that her therapist has died. And I thought he did it brilliantly because he doesn't come in as in like, aha, you've been talking about me, or he doesn't give away his hand at all. He genuinely comes in as like, I'm so sorry. I know. Yeah. And then she hugs him because she's so distraught. And he's like, well, in a way, he did bring us together. and it's just so brilliant because he's gotten away with it. But more than that,
it worked.
He used this, what would have been like a huge mishap in his plan actually worked to his benefit.
Yeah, it totally did. Because then Stephanie and her mom are now on board. And I mean, her mom has always been on board, but Stephanie is like convinced. And they have this beautiful Thanksgiving dinner. And he's just very much like, I'm so thankful for my family. And Stephanie is like, yes, like pass the plate. You know, like I love, was it drumsticks? You know, it's just so.
Yeah, that's right. You seem like
Norman Rockwell.
This is where I think we get very Hitchcockian almost flagrantly, because there's even a shot where they cut from him with the knife, and then they cut to birds on a wire outside, like literally the birds. But
oh, that's right.
The brother character, the very overly handsome, brother who's on the case, he is basically Marion Crane's sister from Psycho.
That's a new CBS show, Brother on the Case.
So he is, and there is sort of a parallel to sort of Norman Bates to Jerry. And in the final act, which we'll get into, a knife, a similar knife is involved. But it's all about literally putting on a costume, being someone else, which was, in Norman's case, he couldn't separate the two. But there is this weird sort of, I did wonder, is he more of a Hannibal Lecter, where he is just a pure psychopath? And there's even some elements, like, have you ever seen Red Dragon, where it's the prequel where Will Graham, he starts putting something together, and it's a moment where Hannibal Lecter realizes, like, oh, Will knows. I have to take him out. I feel bad. I have, and that was that moment too with the, several times. Then I started to say, well, maybe he's not Hannibal Lecter. Maybe he's more like Norman Bates. And honestly, when he is this new persona, he's kind of like split personality. What do you guys think?
I think the split personality thing tracks because that scene in the basement after the cookout, like when they have like their little barbecue or whatever, and all their friends are over, and he gives that amazing speech about how he loves his family and his new life and all of his coworkers and all that stuff. And he's in the basement flipping out. We don't know what he's talking. He's grumbling and mumbling and screaming at himself. And Stephanie wanders down there because she's got to find something and happens to stumble upon him in one of his fits.
Oh, no, he's flipping out because someone pointed out in the newspaper that they're kicked up that investigation again. He sees that article.
Oh, so it started he started the tirade.
He feels
after
like
that.
the walls might be starting to come in.
Okay, well, but still, he doesn't seem to always be in control of his faculties, is what I'm saying. Like, he doesn't always seem to be, even though he is conniving and he does scheme, I still think that he's convincingly portrayed somebody who can't keep track of it. Like, who's sort of like, oh, wait, like, I didn't even realize you were there. That kind of thing. And it's super creepy. It really worked.
And he was also kind of very obsessive over the family thing, where I think Hannibal Lecter is more of a psychopath of just probably thinks himself better than everyone, and he's right to kill them. This guy seemed very, like, broken in a weird way, of like, so hyper-focused on this ideal family that if it can't make it, he has to destroy it in order to build it again.
Yeah. Anything that you recognize in yourself, John?
Oh, well.
Anything in this movie that resonates, you need to tell us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not a stepdad, but, if I was, I would be very, very protective over the idea of family. And I don't know if we could probably just skip towards the third act now, because, then you start falling into what I would call like, okay, we got to have a standard horror tropes because the gig's going to be up soon. And then the cards are on the table.
Yeah, I kept thinking that as we met, like, somewhere, like, right in the middle of the film, we meet that she has a boyfriend, which kind of threw me. But just because of, like, it felt late.
Did you think he was going to be toast?
I did.
I did. And I wrote down, I think we're just meeting people to get killed.
I thought the dog. When you see a dog, I'm like, like Kate Farrell. The dog's not going to lie. Folks, the dog does live.
Especially 80s and dogs.
Yeah.
I had to look it up.
The boyfriend
I had
lives.
to check.
Amazingly enough, the boyfriend gets kind of yelled at for kissing her.
It was a very innocent, like, goodnight kiss that was kind of unexpected because they're the friends who become boyfriend girlfriend.
Right.
Like, he was sort of her buddy who they decide, like, oh, there is something there. There's a spark. And it was just a very chaste little goodnight kiss. And Jerry comes barreling out of the house, losing his like mind about this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, also it was an interesting turning point because they had mended fences and everything was great, and then he loses his mind, and then all of that's undone, and Stephanie yells at him and says, this things were great, and basically they're back to square one of.
And that's that scene you were talking about,
right? And then the mom slaps her and says, how dare you talk to him like that? But then when Stephanie runs off, she turns to Jerry and says,
yes,
everything was fun and is broken again because of you. So it was a very good mom moment, because she does sort of like come down on her sister for speaking that way to her, basically her stepdad. But she points it out. Was that the moment where when he heard that, he went to go set up shop elsewhere?
Yeah, that was, you could see him, the gears are turning. And then the next day you see him, she's like, honey, we have to talk about this. Like his wife is like, honey, we've talked about this. And he's like, talk about what? And he's like, well, we have to figure this out. He's like, I am. And she's like, all on your own? He's like, yeah.
Yeah. Without the family? Yeah.
I thought he was like exiting. I didn't realize he was actually overlapping his families. He's setting up the new life, and he's got a cart around the
figuring
wigs
it out.
And the spirit gum and the fake beards.
Yeah, like he wasn't lying. He really did. He was going to take care of it on his own. And she was going to have to live with the consequences of that, which would be to die.
Yes.
So yeah, he's on the ferry going back and forth between these two towns, and that was the scene, Dave. Your dream scenario of getting on a ferry and going and becoming an insurance salesman in another town.
Just being so full of confidence that you could walk right in after your plot to murder your family and say, you know what, I am an insurance salesman, aren't I?
I feel like people should be protected against death. Especially the death that I caused.
He totally did that. He was like life insurance. He was all about that.
Well, he must have bought a lot of life insurance in his time for his wives.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But what's weird is why didn't they put this guy's mug around, if he's still on the loose, it seems like that face would have been plastered all around. It sounds like the police did a big ball drop.
For as smart as the script is, there are some really stupid sides to it.
Yes.
And I just think that's like one of those things. It's so funny because I watched the movie, I'm like, this script is really smart in the sense like the mom defends her daughter. Like it's not like the mom is a little bit in the beginning of the film, a little bit like, oh no, it's my new boyfriend, don't be so hard on him. But like by the mid to end, she's a little bit like, look, you fucked up here, Jerry. Why are you doing it? And I think that's kind of smart. The fact that Jerry just kills whoever he needs to right away instead of like having these like 10-minute segments where we know it's going to end with the person dying, I felt was kind of smart. There's just a lot of good, smart moments. But then the things that they have to force in order for the story to be told, like the cops dropping the ball, feels a little weird. Or the fact that he's in the same town. Like, if he moved across country, I could buy it a little bit more.
If the guy was in Florida and, like, then they put his face around a year ago, sure, I would believe that people in the Seattle area wouldn't have seen that. Yes. They were only just, less than a decade in for kids on milk cartons. So, like, it just wasn't... Yeah. We could believe that his face would have been in one area of the country and then not the other. And I think that was what they were trying to address by having the brother of the first family be so adamant and angry about, that his little friend in the newspaper who didn't want to help. And he was like, why didn't you put his picture in the article? Like, why didn't you do any of these things? And he's like, my editor didn't want it. I was like, okay, well, that doesn't make any sense.
And then he says to him, why don't you just forget about this?
Just, your sister died a year ago. Let it go.
Yeah. That's a year ago, man.
So they didn't find the killer. Come on. Move on.
What are you going to
do? There were a lot of films that came after this that fall into that. Stephanie, you tell me the genre of basically the outsider coming in to basically take over the pride.
The Interloper.
Yeah, The Interloper. There was Unlawful Entry with Kurt Russell and Ray Liotta. There was Consenting Adults with Kevin Spacey and Kevin Kline and Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. And
The Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. And it's, Fear. The Pacific Heights was another one I really liked. But in those cases, you didn't really know much backstory about them until later on you find out, like, the protagonist starts to learn things or the person who's suspecting. This one, we know a lot at the beginning. We don't know his backstory, and I'm glad we didn't get that. I hate that. But we just know instantly he's a murderer. They're not playing coy. We know he literally is a serial killer. So I like that convention because we are sort of wondering, are they going to find him out? But in a way, he's kind of his own worst enemy because he does things. Basically, he sets up his own traps that he falls into. And he probably even knows it.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you're right. I have messed things up. Guess I have to kill you all now and start over.
Yeah, like when he forgets who he is, like we were talking about before, he forgets. Because at that point, he's already started to overlap his new life with the life he's about to discard. And he forgets in the moment. And it's something that was so interesting and entertaining to see because not only was he really good at how he portrayed it as an actor, but you also, it's so human. It's like a thing where it's like, oh, I forgot who I am. I forgot who I am today. I literally am getting so wrapped up in this new life that I'm formulating that I'm forgetting about the one I'm about to throw away. So that was just really real and crazy. And things really heat up after that because then Stephanie comes home and you think he's going to kill the dog.
And can we talk a little bit, because I wanted to talk a little about the 80s tropes, like the types of violence.
Oh, no, I know what you're going to say.
But there was such an irregular choice to, these films always have, in the 80s, horror films usually have some sort of nudity, some sort of characters getting it on. And this film sort of bypassed it with Mom and Dad, with Jerry and Shelley Hack's character. But we get this completely, I guess it's gratuitous, scene of someone getting into a shower. And who is it? It's the 16-year-old character.
Yeah, they had the
naked
love scene. They had this love scene between Jerry and his new wife, or the mom. But I don't think that was nudity. I think that I honestly, I read something recently where they would literally say, we have an R rating. We need to bank on that, or we need to cash in our R rating. So get some boobs in there. Like, just do it. And these, men.
Why would you do it with the one minor in the movie?
I mean, it didn't matter because think about what the 80s movies were. It was people who were not teenagers playing teenagers. Minors. They were not real minors. Like, most of the time they would get people who were in their 20s to play
I know.
teens.
It was just weird, and it made me really uncomfortable because I forgot, like, does this go into like a more like really inappropriate direction? And no,
this is like,
he was still a father figure to her. He actually kind of respected her boundaries as he wanted to kill her, if that makes sense.
Right. I mean, like, the only threat that she the only threat that she encountered was actually being murdered, but it was still kind of like, it was so obvious to me. I was like, oh, okay, so they're cashing in their R rating. Like, they're doing the thing that they were commanded to do. Like, this is a horror movie. We got to keep the teens entertained, so get some tits on the screen. And, it doesn't matter whose it is. Just do it.
It's Terry O'Quinn, sir.
We did see there was a butt at the beginning. Remember, Jerry gets in the shower.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We see his butt.
Could have been a butt double.
We see some side ween too.
Side ween?
Yeah, because I was thinking, okay, all right, okay. Because he was getting into a shower. Love him. He was getting into a shower. I totally forgot.
I do think the shower. I was surprised by the nudity. I didn't think we'd see anything. I just thought it would be kind of like all from behind. You don't see anything.
It was kind of like the Vanani from Pinocchio's Revenge.
Yeah, but that was total nudity. It does echo that idea of Psycho.
Yeah,
that he has the knife. And she's in the shower. And I was kind of expecting that scene of, the knife coming down maybe not killing her, but coming down at her in the shower. But they had this great shot, though, where she's in the bathroom. There's a mirror on the door, and Dad O'Quinn is pounding on the door. And the mirror is slowly cracking as he bangs on the door, and you see her reflection as it starts cracking. And I just thought, wow, that's a great shot.
Yeah.
Hard for the director not to be influenced by The Shining. Literally, here's Daddy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And but I thought they did a good job of avoiding like completely ripping off Psycho. And then the cat and mouse game, I thought was genuinely suspenseful. anytime they go up to an attic, it's challenging because there's so few ways to escape other than falling out a window.
And I was like, why would you go into an attic? Like, why would you go into the bathroom where there's no window? I mean, there's one window and it's super tiny. Like, why was she going?
These are the tropes.
Yeah, we can thank Kevin Williamson for revisiting that in Scream.
By the way, when he chases her up into the attic, was it just a little odd that she from off camera, she hurls a sled at him? Like,
I thought that was fantastic.
I thought that was boss. I was like,
I was like, wait a minute, wait, now are we paying homage to Citizen Kane? What am I missing?
Rosebud.
That was my thought too. Rosebud.
But I did enjoy that entire sequence. And then before he starts chasing her, she's in the shower when the boyfriend, the brother from the murdered family arrives. He finally gets to town. He finally figures out through some detective work of his own, in a very strange sequence where he goes to somebody who sold, like somebody who bought a house that Jerry sold. I was like, why did he end up there? I can't remember why he was there, but
I couldn't remember either. I know he went to Jerry's house first, talked to the wife in a very
creepy way.
You should warn people about me way, because he knocks on the door. She opens the door, and they're standing like 5 inches apart, and he's like, "Hey, is your husband home?" She's like, "No." Okay, well, I'll come back. And she's like, I could tell him you came. And he's like, no, I want to surprise him.
Yeah, it was like
all the subtlety that Terry Quinn has in his character and his hiding his quirks and revealing his psychosis and everything is the exact opposite in the brother, who's just kind of like, I'm going to play it right here.
It shows you that all the heroes are clumsy and all the villains are not.
Right.
Yeah.
So he shows up.
It's also a convenient way to just get a gun into the house, because when he meets the reporter initially, he's like, "What are you going to do if you find him?" "I'm going to just shoot him." And so that's his plan. He just is going to go through the phone book till he like Marty McFly, and goes through until he finds the right street.
Terminator
Rips out the Terminator, and I'm just going to shoot him. And he's got the gun in the pocket, and it was just this is not well thought out, not at all.
No, he was
But he was kind of using, it was weird, not to dwell too much on handsome, TBS actor guy.
No, dwell.
He seemed to be using his charm in a weird way. Like when he goes to I don't know, he's going to an insurance office, or he's trying to dig up information on his lead, and there's an employee there who clearly takes a shine to his looks. I wonder if they were trying to make a statement on how men use their charm on weak-minded women. It was just kind of a weird... I mean, yes, he was a good-looking guy. It could have been... It just was so kind of clumsy in the way it was done. Like, the only reason he's able to get this information is because he's clearly handsome, and he knows it.
So he's a mirror to Jerry.
A little bit.
A backwards reverse.
They don't develop his character too much.
Yeah, because he's not as talented with it.
Yeah, right.
Well, he got what he needed.
Yeah, he did. But I don't know.
He did.
I don't know if they're making some sort of comment on how, that predators can take advantage of people in all sorts of ways, maybe not always harmful,
Like, women better watch out. Pick the bear, don't pick the man, if you guys know what I'm talking about.
I do not know what you're talking about.
Oh, boy. Well, you're going to have to look it up after the show, because I can't get into it here. So the brother shows up at the house, at Terry O'Quinn's house, and what happens to him almost immediately? He's like the Arbogast figure in Psycho, where it's just like, I've finally found you, I'm finally onto you. Oh, I'm dead. Yeah. He gets killed. Jerry comes and stabs him almost immediately. And it's like such a waste. I'm kind of like, oh, okay, well, now these women are truly on their own. No hero's going to come in and save the day, which is refreshing, because it really means that Stephanie has to save the day. And I'm always about Stephanie saving the day.
Well, this movie, like 80 slashers, does lean heavily into indestructible humans. Mom gets clocked in the face, but then she's beaten
and thrown down the basement
stairs.
Thrown
down the stairs. I think she stabbed too. I don't know. She goes through a lot, survives. then they turn Terry into Michael Myers. You know, he becomes a pinata, but somehow is able to just keep popping up.
Yeah, like they just...
Yeah, I mean, he's shot like 3 times, I think, and she misses a couple of times.
He gets stabbed in the heart. He gets stabbed in the arm.
That killed him.
Well,
yeah.
that was his last stab.
But then, as we know, which is sort of going to ruin everything, there was a sequel.
Okay, this is what I wanted to share with you guys. We watched this on a platform that made it very easy to go down the rabbit hole of just going straight to the sequels, which I did. And I in all fairness, I did skim through them, but I kind of watched the second one, which is a whole other review. But I forgot there was a franchise, and the ways that they bring him back in each movie are right out of a soap opera.
I think, I wrote it down. Wait, I don't know if I wrote it down or not, but I had the same thought when I saw that there was a sequel. I was like, is this Terry O'Quinn, or is it just like the same kind of plot with a different guy? And it was Terry O'Quinn again, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to watch just the first 10 minutes to figure out how they bring him back from the dead, because that's going to be the best part.
Oh, but the third one is even better because they get a different actor, but it's the same character. Q, sleazy plastic surgeon for the underworld.
Oh my gosh. So that's right. I forgot about
Priscilla Barnes is the mom in that one. The third one literally is the Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. It's really that.
So they were like, okay, so Terry O'Quinn, okay, so Jerry's not dead, everybody. In Part 2, Jerry's not dead, everyone. He just got taken out a little bit, but he's fine. Yes. He's in a psychiatry, or like in a psychiatric hold somewhere, right? And then the third one, you're saying that he did Face Off? Like he completely changed his countenance?
He keeps escaping from these asylums, and the Inspector Clouseau police departments can never find him. And and the actor they get in the third one, he's got kind of like a same sort of vocal sort of, I don't know if going for Midwest, but the guy doesn't look, I mean, he's got like a full head of hair, but it's obviously not a wig. I'm like, what? So did you implant hair? I mean, what?
They could do, if they could change his face.
Yeah,
they can do wonders,
just like soap operas
with the rug.
So, do we want to rate this first one before we clearly want to review the second one? I don't know. How much did you watch? Did your 10 minutes turn into 90 minutes?
Oh, I didn't watch any of it. But I do want to see.
I think you guys should. I
love it.
Worth a Craptaculus review. But I
love that I got you guys into this. I mean, even though I know the movie existed before me, and like because I was born in 1994. Even though you guys knew of the movie and everything, I'm so happy that I was able to suggest something that was actually this good that made you both want to check out what's happening next.
Yes.
Cinema Craptaculus ratings.
We have a 3-tiered rating system. It's the top tier is Cinema Craptaculus. This is a must-watch. For this movie, we're calling it Hi, Dad. Yeah, it's like
the most cheerful.
You're accepting. You're bringing it in.
That's the best you could hope for in this situation.
Especially if you're a stepfather. You're not going to get Hi Dad a lot as a stepfather. The second tier is Craptaculus. This is a fine movie to watch. Don't run out and see it. And for this time, that level is Hey Jerry. Still nice, but a little cold.
But you're not my dad.
Yeah, you're not my dad.
Yeah, but you're not my dad.
But I will acknowledge you.
Yeah. And then the third tier, utter crap, avoid this. And of course, this is, you still here?
Wait, is it like talking to the camera like Ferris Bueller, fourth wall? You still here?
It's more like, there's a man in your house and you thought he'd be gone after, an afternoon, and he's still there pretending to be your dad, and you're like, I didn't ask for this. Yeah. Are you still here? I don't know. Should I learn his name? I don't know.
Should I learn his name? Sounds like you have a bad mom, too.
In that scenario,
if you're ever going, should I learn his name to your mom's boyfriends, you may have a bad mom.
Or just a mom who doesn't know what she wants.
I say this is a Hey Jerry. It was kind of very fun to watch and different. I felt like, again, I go back to, I felt like the script was smarter than it had any right or need to be. And I really appreciated that. And I thought all the performances were really good. Like, Terry O'Quinn is phenomenal as this psychotic person. So I give it a Craptaculus. Hey, Jerry.
I would probably give it a hi, Dad. I give it the top rating only because the basis is on would I recommend this movie, and I would. It was so entertaining. I went in with no expectations. Like it wasn't even like low. It was zero. I was like, oh, this is a movie. I think I could follow the plot. Let's watch it. And it was so entertaining, and I didn't get bored, and I was just sort of like, it moves along pretty quickly too. So I would give it a joyful, hey, Dad, hi, Dad, over a delicious Thanksgiving dinner. Pass the turkey Dad. Legs.
Well, I will also give it a hi, Dad. This is a Cinema Craptaculus. I had seen the movies, but it had been a while. And I do remember that I think when Terry O'Quinn, when he first popped back up on my radar, it was just before Lost. It was in J.J. Abrams had brought him in for, I think it was Alias. No, actually, he was on X-Files. So I'd just seen his face again. And I remember thinking, isn't this the Stepfather? But I hadn't thought about it. And I remember the tag, you know, the money shot in the trailer was when he goes, "You're a very bad girl." And he I think the film certainly completely succeeds or fails on Terry O'Quinn. You know, any other actor, I think, would have gone in one way or the other, either too trying to be all charming and nice and not convincing as the scary guy, or he would be just too creepy and you wouldn't buy that anybody would fall for it. How could he's gotta be a confidence man. And I think that he is just so he just had so much presence. And I do think that the film touched a little bit on sort of how divorce was starting to really kick into gear from the 70s into the 80s, and it was just more common by the time you got to 87 that there were remarriages. And I think that's probably where the screenwriters tapped into something, the stepmother or the stepfather. And I don't think there'd probably been stories similar where, you know, there's the psycho boyfriend or something. But this one really, the sort of the basis of his character was that he wanted family. He was offended by alternate lifestyles. He was a conservative. And I think that's really
Reagan
unnerving.
era.
Yeah. So I think that the combination of his performance and sort of the premise works. I would recommend it. I mean, it's definitely got its 80s warts, as we talked about.
Boobs.
I think a lot of people like Stephanie would be surprised that it's not like a standard slasher fare, that it actually, I wish maybe it could have been a little more intelligent to Dave's points, because, you know, then it would have really elevated it. But I would love to talk to Terry O'Quinn and say, what made you come back for a sequel? Because I can't imagine the salaries on
the
this.
money.
Well, I read that.
It's better than not working.
Yeah. Well, I read, to your point, John, I read that the producers had intended for it to be a more cerebral psychological thriller, but because slasher movies were just so bankable, like they were making so much money in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, during the production of this movie, they decided to lean harder into the slasher tropes. So there's a little bit of what you wanted in the mix. Like, that was sort of where they started, but they needed to kind of juice it up a little bit for the audience at the time, which I don't know if it helped, because isn't it kind of known now as a cult classic? Like, it's kind of not something that was a blockbuster at the time, or on the level of Friday the 13th even, or the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, it's just not known on that level, but it's still a good movie. Like, it's still entertaining and a lot smarter than a lot of those movies.
And it shows you how like casting is crucial. I mean, I'm reminded of Kathy Bates being cast in Misery.
Yeah, and Terry O'Quinn carries this movie. Like, Terry carries Jerry.
Yes.
And it's very much like, like, I agree with you. Like, we know he's evil. We just saw the bloodbath after the aftermath of his killing the first family, and it was horrible and terrifying. But you kind of want to see how he keeps this going. You kind of want to see how he's going to, convince Stephanie or convince other people in his life. And then when it doesn't succeed, then you kind of are like, oh no, what is he going to do? You know, then your allegiance switches.
Terry's the man. I was hoping to have something like Terry carries Jerry, but I just didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave.
Terry's the man in black, right?
The man with the plan.
That was a callback to Lost.
Oh.
Yeah, that came out after I was born. I mean, before.
Right.
I can't get my story.
So
Who
much
am I?
has come out
Who am I
after you were
here?
born.
Who am I here?
Which generation am I? Alpha, Z?
Well, thanks for joining us on this Cinema Craptaculus journey. This is Dave, and ever present with me are...
Stephanie!
And John.
Remember, a bad film is just as hard to make as a good one. It's just a lot easier to make fun of.
A special thanks to all of our loyal Craptaculus listeners. You know who you are. We call you Craptaculars, and we are grateful you spend time with us. Be sure to tell all your friends and family to listen, subscribe, and leave us a rating and a review. Cinema Craptaculus offers up hilarious movie discussions, and our Expanded Universe show offers up a grab bag of showbiz analysis, interviews, pop culture fun, and lots to geek out on. So stay tuned for more Craptaculus fun coming to you wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.